So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the UK-Australia deal, how it could complicate post-Brexit solutions with Northern Ireland and the Northern Ireland Protocol. So a key problem here is that we don't know the specifics of the UK-Australia deal, but potentially there is the case that the tariffs and quotas that are meant to be phased out over 15 years, that's going to have a much shorter or non-existent lifespan now, that Australia could start exporting beef to the UK sort of without tariffs or quotas as soon as the deal is agreed to by Parliament, which won't take too long considering the Conservative Party have a massive 80, I think it's 79 seat majority now, I'm not sure, but it's a slam dunk for the Tories to get this deal through, and this is further going to create problems I think within Northern Ireland. So if we go into the article, officials on both sides of the channel fear the UK-Australia trade deal risks undermining efforts to ease post-Brexit tensions in Northern Ireland by securing a food and plant-based safety agreement between Brussels and London. So, it feels like the UK and the EU may be closer to getting some sort of agreement when it comes to food standards, maybe some sort of equivalency or alignment deal. We don't know yet. Specifics, but we know that if the UK does sign a deal with Australia, it might complicate that because Australia have much lower standards than the UK and the EU when it comes to meat, beef, chicken, all that kind of stuff, even wool. And these products wouldn't be allowed to be imported into the EU, and therefore won't be allowed to be imported from GB into NI if these products are allowed into GB. We've already spoken previously how there's a loophole that will allow products, sort of the public sector, to buy Australian hormone beef if they can prove for cost reasons they have to, which is possible that some institutions might because of rapid and aggressive budget cuts by a government. But yeah, so not a great scenario all round, just for the Northern Ireland Protocol, especially. Already it's pretty bad, but if we start importing this Australian low-grade beef, it's going to get worse. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison announced a political agreement on Tuesday on the broad terms of a trade deal, but the details are limited. Neither side published a full text of which has been agreed so far, and chunks of the record are still not complete, with areas still requiring final drafting, two British officials told Politico. So it's not fully finished yet. We don't know the details, but we do know the UK is desperate for this deal and therefore will give concessions to Australia. It's very possible that the UK has given up on the 15-year phase-in for the no tariffs and no quotas for Australian beef. It could be a much shorter timescale. It could be that these tariffs and quotas are gotten rid of much more aggressively over the 15 years, or maybe those 15 years don't exist anymore. We don't know. Yeah, some drafting covering agriculture and seen by Politico suggests that there would be fewer checks carried out on Australian products, including fertilisers and meat, than is currently the case when they are imported by the EU. So we know that the UK, when it comes to carrying out checks, is going to be less aggressive than the ones the EU carries out, and that creates gaps. That could allow sort of beef that isn't allowed into the UK. Under the rules of the agreement, if those rules kind of exist, they could easily slip through the net, and that's going to be a problem, especially since we've got to remember the UK doesn't have enough customs agents to implement the Northern Ireland Protocol. It doesn't have enough customs agents to deal with exports from the EU. And now more customs agents, and officials, I meant to say customs agents and officials will have to deal with this stuff. They will have to deal with the incoming amount of beef coming from Australia, and we'll have to make sure that the Australians these farmers have followed the rules set out within UK law for beef, etc. As long as that's part of the deal, we're going to have to wait for details. But point being is that we don't know the specifics, but the UK is going to implement less checks than the EU does on Australian beef, and that could be a problem, especially since we're going to start importing a lot more of that Australian beef because of the ending of tariffs and quotas. So it says here, quote, if the UK are agreeing to reduce the frequency of checks, and that can only mean one of two things. Either it believes the current rate of testing is needlessly onerous, or is prepared to accept a greater degree of risk than before, and I think it would be the latter. I think that they think they're willing to take on the risk, but the problem is the EU aren't going to be willing to do that. So when stories come out of the UK kind of letting through hormone beef into the country, what that's going to mean is the EU might want more checks on goods coming out of the UK to France or Germany, but also to Northern Ireland, and that's a problem because that means those checks are going to have to be far more aggressive when it comes to goods being exported out of the UK. Dimitri is quite an interesting character because he did a recent interview with James O'Brien, where he basically said Australia got all of the stuff they wanted, which is a no tariff and quota deal on agricultural products, and we don't know what the UK actually wanted because the UK has not really stated any kind of policy aims when it comes to trade. So Australia are hailing this as a great deal. The Australian Prime Minister doesn't care about British farmers. Why should he? And he will do his best. The Australian farmers will do their best to decimate British farming because that creates a bigger market for the Australians, which I don't blame them for. This is international politics at the end of the day. It's full of sharks and we're about to get bit real bad. EU officials were already concerned that Northern Ireland might act as a backdoor into their single market, which is absolutely possible. That someone could try by accident or on purpose to see if they could get Aussie beef, hormone beef, into GB and then into Northern Ireland to see how strong those kind of checks are. We've already been disturbed by a disregard for the need to implement checks required by the protocol, and EU officials said, and we're not doing checks already, and the GB does export a lot to NI, so this could further complicate things, especially when you're talking about things like ready meals, which could have Australian beef in them. Who's going to check all this stuff? So the EU official goes on to say this is opening the gates further if other goods from third countries are allowed in with less scrutiny, which could easily happen for the UK to get deals with other countries. The Australia deal would be the first the UK has negotiated from scratch since Brexit. Others, such as the Japan deal agreed in September last year, were based on a rollover of terms the UK enjoyed while a member of the EU. Not to mention the fact that the UK-Japan deal is actually worse than the EU-Japan deal. But it's important to mention that it is therefore this deal, UK and Australia deal, is therefore the first one which EU standards and enforcement requirements have not formed the starting point in negotiation. So by the looks of things, when the EU start negotiations over a deal with a country, they say that, look, these are our checks and these are the things that's going to happen. The UK, by the looks of things, are going to be far more lax, and that creates problems with the UK-Australia deal. It's unclear what provisions the deal might contain in order to keep Britain's commitments under the Brexit trade deal, the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, and the Withdrawal Agreement. So, the UK has agreed to minimum standards, I think, as part of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. I don't know if that agreement means that the UK cannot export stuff that is lower than the standards of, domestic producers. That's going to be quite interesting to see if that's part of the TCA. So this is a quote here from Sam Lowe, Senior Research Fellow at the Centre for European Reform, saying that while it was possible for the UK to do a deal with Australia and not jeopardise its ability to enter into a deep veterinary agreement with the EU, it will be interesting to see whether the UK chooses to diverge from the EU approaches anyway, so as to make it more difficult for a future government to reintegrate with the EU. So we've got some interesting points there that, is the UK going to deregulate? And what are the reasons behind it? Will the UK deregulate in order to get trade deals with other countries, which will further make the Northern Ireland Protocol harder to enforce because they're going to have to be more checks done on goods going from GB to NI. But it's possible that the UK are doing this for ideological reasons in order to separate ourselves further from the EU and make reintegration harder. The thing is, it won't make it a ton more difficult as long as we're not doing, hormone beef and stuff like that in the country domestically, because then it will take longer for us to clean up, and stop these practices from happening. But if we're only importing the stuff, I think it'll be far easier for reintegration with the EU. But again, we'll see what this government does. It's still not clear how Northern Ireland's ability to benefit from London's trade deals with third countries will work in practice. So, Northern Ireland, because it's a part of the EU's market for goods, it's not impacted, I think, by the UK cutting things like steel tariffs, etc. So you can see why Northern Ireland, to an extent, feels isolated, but, it doesn't warrant the kind of ramping up of tensions that we are going to cover at some point soon. But the simple fact is, Northern Ireland won't benefit from the UK's trade deals because it's not part of the UK. It's not part of the UK single market for goods. It's part of the EU single market for goods. So it does further add to the isolation of Northern Ireland. Going on, there's a bit more here. Asked about the impact of a trade deal with Australia on a solution to the post-Brexit situation in Northern Ireland, a Downing Street spokesman said there is no interplay with wider issues. So they're saying that this is not going to impact Northern Ireland. So again, we don't know if this spokesperson is telling the truth, but we do know there is possibly going to be an impact on the Northern Ireland through the UK signing this agreement with Australia. We are yet to see the specifics of the deal, and that's the problem. We don't know if we're going to see the UK import hormone beef. Hopefully not, because if we do, it's going to create further problems with Northern Ireland and also kind of UK consumers as well. So we'll wait for specifics and we'll cover it when the time comes. But yeah, in conclusion, the Australian High Commission to the UK declined to comment. The European Commission didn't respond for a request either. So it's interesting why no one decided to respond to this article. Maybe they don't want to add any tensions here, or maybe they're just going to wait for specifics to come out about this agreement. But what we can see is that the EU are fearing that the Northern Ireland could become a gateway for lower standard goods that would breach EU rules on things like agriculture. So not great. But yeah, anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.